I'm Johanna. Welcome back to my channel, me, my dog and books. Also the same handle as my Instagram and my book talk. Not my Goodreads. Is it my Goodreads? I don't know. Links in the description below. Today's video I've decided to come at you with are my AutoBuy thriller authors. Why have I done this video? I have no idea. I just thought, you know, some of the videos I like watching is like when people have a genre. I mean, I'm a very eclectic reader, so I'll read a whole mix of genres. The only genres I tend not to read a lot of are fantasy or romance. I don't mind a wee bit of romance, but I'm not really in. I used to be. I think my tastes have changed. Anyway, what I'm going to do is talk you through some of my AutoBuy thriller authors, why I love them, and I'll share some of the books of theirs that I've read, because I've not read all of the books of the thriller authors that I love. First up is the Queen of Dark Thrillers, who, to be fair, I only started reading about 2 years ago. Don't know how I missed that one. Anyway, it's Karin Slaughter. Reasons to love Karin Slaughter? They are gripping thrillers with complex characters, shocking twists, a deep dive into the darkest corners of the human psyche. Like most of the books that I've read, some of them are here. All of them I would highly recommend. One of the ones I know gets hailed really highly, and I have it on my shelf and I haven't read it yet, is Pretty Girls. So that is one I plan on reading ASAP. She does a mix of standalones as well as a couple of series. So I think the only series one, I might be wrong, so don't quote me, but I've read 2 in the Grand County series. Books 1 and 2. Book 1 is Blindsighted. In saying that, you could read book 1 and then just leave it there if you didn't want to embark on a series. I find her thrillers disturbing and pretty graphic, so it's not the kind of thriller for everyone. On the same vein as those type of thrillers is another author who has loads of books, and I only discovered about the same time, maybe 2 years ago, and it's Chris Carter. I think the first book I read of his was Night Stalker. I'll put it here anyway. I've read a couple more since then, and boy oh boy are they dark. Like if you've ever seen the movie Seven with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, that level of dark. They're always super fast paced, like so bingeable. A lot of his books, when I've picked them up, mostly been picking up at the second-hand bookstores. Again, some of them, there is a kind of order to the series, which I've discovered having read a few of the books. Not that it's majorly affected my reading experience, but I'm going to try and get it into order. But they're so fast paced, like the stickers will say like as bingeable as a TV box set, or like a Netflix series. So yeah, and I think he's actually got, see, as an author where anytime I've maybe put anything on Instagram or TikTok about a book of his I've read and I've really enjoyed, he was really nice at engaging with his readers in a really appreciative way. I think he's also got, I was just checking on his wiki page there, he's got experience as a criminal behavioural psychologist, so that just adds a whole load of value to his stories. Makes you wonder where he's blurring fact and fiction as well. Keeping in the same vein of dark and brutal, and don't worry, they will get less dark and brutal. Actually, maybe I should front load them with that and then you can skip forward. Is another author called Sam Holland. I think she's only had 2 books out. Read the first one, which was The Echo Man, and then the next one, which is The 20, and she's got another one coming out next month, which I'm super excited about. And again, amazing sort of detective characters in it, where you feel that they've got a great backstory that you kind of follow along with that. Most, I would say, they're all really dark, suspenseful thrillers, and that feature, again, brutal crimes but relentless detectives who you actually I personally really warm to. On a similar vein, as I'm trying to think through of all the dark thrillers writers, is Lucinda Berry. Also with clinical experience in a previous job. So she brings, similar to Chris Carter, brings a bit of that clinical psychology experience. Her books often just have jaw-dropping twists. There are books that just feel like they have relentless tension and they mess with your mind. I've read all of these ones. I'd recommend them all. I would always say check the content warnings for some of these as well, because they touch on some of them touch on really kind of taboo subjects, which could be quite triggering for people. Again, really suspenseful writing. Her characters are really well developed. Love them or loathe them, or sometimes somewhere in between. She's another one, and I think actually some of all of them kind of are like on that tightrope between reality and fiction. Honestly, I defy you to read any of these books and not binge them. Another one that's also of a similar ilk is Jennifer Hillier. I haven't read enough of her books yet. I have quite a few on my TBR that I want to, but these are the ones that I have read and I really enjoyed them. Again, pretty dark psychological thrillers, normally with characters whose ordinary lives are kind of unraveling and super twisty. Yeah. There's one of hers, I can't remember the name of it. There's like two of hers I really want to read, like are high up on my TBR. It's Wonderland and The Butcher. I actually think I have The Butcher, or I did have. Maybe I had it from the library. I can't remember, I haven't read it yet. So those are a whole bunch of really dark, twisty thriller, must-buy, auto-buy authors for me. And if I get into ones that are, they're a wee bit tamer, so they're maybe not quite as brutal and gory in the crime department. First one being Riley Sager. Oh. As a thriller author, he can be divisive, I think, at times, but just because he leans really heavily into thriller tropes, and I just go with it and love it. Whereas some people go, some people are like, oh, that's so unbelievable. I have a wild fun time reading Riley Sager. I mean, you just buckle in for a good mind-bending thriller of a ride. I know that if I'm picking up a Riley Sager book, I'm going to have a good time. I've got the only one left, which is the one that came out last year, and his new one to read. I've got quite a couple still in his back catalogue. The first one I read that introduced me to Riley Sager was Home Before Dark, which is a brilliant thriller stroke haunted house story, and it's probably one, if people went, what one would you recommend I start with, I would say that one, because it's a good introduction to his writing style. He always writes, most of the time, so far from my reading experience with him, unreliable narrators, which is a trope I quite enjoy in a thriller. Shocking twists always, sometimes coming out of nowhere, sometimes we're like, what? But honestly, I just have a wild ride reading them. So much fun. I say so much fun, but also pretty anxiety-inducing the whole time. You're just like, which, to be fair, I would say with some of these thriller authors, quite a lot. So the next ones I have, I'm definitely reading is the new one. Can't remember this here. That got an arc, and the only one left, which is one of my 24 books to read in 2024. Yes, I pre-ordered it, like I said before. I pre-ordered his new book last year because I get so excited about coming out. Same with any of my AutoBuy authors. I get so excited, I pre-order, and then I don't immediately read it. But hey, it's the life of a bookworm. Of a similar kind of twisty, but not as dark, not hugely dark, thriller AutoBuy author for me is Alice Feeney. I've actually not, some of her bigger ones, so His and Hers and Rock, Paper, Scissors, I've got on my shelf and I haven't read them yet. I know I know, and I know there are at least a couple of her highly acclaimed ones. So these are the ones I have read. Daisy Darker was a 5-star for me, and if you're a seasonal reader, keep this one for October spooky season, because it's set all around like the run up to Halloween. It's so good. I like the way that Alice Feeney often does with her characters. You normally have an array of characters, and you're kind of second guessing who to believe, and you're kind of led to believe one thing, and then so I quite like that. There's always plot twists that I tend to never guess, but I'm never a very accurate guesser of plot twists generally. So if I've guessed a plot twist, then it's pretty simple. She's just, I wouldn't say Daisy Darker didn't feel like a domestic thriller, but normally there's like an isolated setting, and I do know that she's kind of well known for good domestic thrillers. The one that I didn't enjoy was her latest one. What was it called? Good Bad Girl, right? I think this one came out last year. I was so disappointed. I think it's because I know Alice Feeney is a kind of thriller writer, and it didn't feel like a thriller whatsoever. I mean, it was okay, but I didn't love it. Like, I was so disappointed because the last book I'd read of hers was Daisy Darker, and that was 5 stars, and I just thought it was amazing. I would say it was more a domestic drama than a thriller. So don't pick that one up unless if you're looking for like a good page-turning thriller, because it didn't feel like that. Next one, John Mars. Now, John Mars writes 2 types of books, kind of psychological thrillers and speculative fiction, sort of dystopian fiction. I love both of the genres. I think if I had to pick, it'd probably on speculative dystopian. But I would still call them quite thrillers because they're just so great. The Marriage Act I loved, and then his new one, The Family Experiment. You might have seen me mention it in a previous video. I'm going to start reading ASAP. I love the speculative fiction in that it's almost like presenting a premise of the world that you think could probably happen. So like in The Marriage Act, it's like the Conservative Party, it's in near future Britain, and the Conservative Party are worrying about the low marriage rates, so they put in incentives to get people to marry, called the Marriage Act, where you get like benefits on healthcare and all of that kind of stuff. But to ensure that people aren't just doing it on the, like to get the benefits, they have these ALEXA, it's over there, so I'm not saying it out loud, because it listens, and they listen in, and they'll trigger a relationship sort of rep if they think that your relationship isn't working out, and they get like influencers to talk about the marriage. I was like, this would not surprise me. So The Family Experiment is something similar, which is based on, there's a population, like nobody can afford to raise a family anymore, and so there's this reality game show where you can get a virtual child to raise, and then possibly either A, win it to keep, or have your own real child. So scarily close to what could be possibly near future. His others are great thrillers. I think his latest one, which I've not read, but I've not seen a bad review for it from any of my fellow thriller readers, is The Stranger in the House. The Stranger in the House came out in February, so it's pretty new. The ones of his I've read here. The only one I didn't love, and it's maybe because it's a much older one of his books, and I'd started with spec fiction and then some thrillers, which I really liked, and then picked up The Vacation. I gave it like 1 star. Just didn't feel like a thriller. I don't know what it was. I just didn't enjoy it. Yeah, so John Mars, also really nice author on like Instagram, TikTok and stuff like that. Like really nicely engages with readers. Also because, I have to say that, because there are some authors out there who, from being an avid viewer of BookTube and BookTok and Bookstagram, I'm aware of authors who can get, can invade into readers' spaces and reader review spaces in a very negative way. Touch wood, I've not experienced that yet to date, but I know of friends and fellow booktubers who have, so that's when I always say they're really like when I say really nice to readers. Another, obviously, him, and I don't know when the last time she published a book, but it's Gillian Flynn. Gong Girl was like mind-blowing when it came out. It was so different to any other thriller. I still highly recommend it, and if you've never read it, there is a movie. I didn't enjoy the movie because I so adored the book that I didn't feel that it did it justice, but that's my personal opinion. I know people that loved the movie and loved the book. If you've not read it, don't know anything other than there's a husband and wife, POVs, the wife goes missing, the husband's clearly prime suspect, and stuff ensues. Perfection. But her other books are just as mind-bendingly twisty, and I think don't get enough of a shout out, and that is Sharp Objects and Dark Places. Gillian Flynn can write twists that just make your jaw drop. She writes really sharp-edged characters and literally can keep you guessing, if not throw in an unexpected plot twist right to the very last page. When is she coming out with a new book? Does anyone know? She keeps blurbing some of the new books I'm picking up. Where's her next book? No pressure. I'm not an author and I've never written a book in my life and I don't plan to, so but I would love to read it. One that I should mention, but I tend not to very often when I talk about thrillers, because I kind of, even though I know he's not just solely a horror writer, I do associate him mostly with horror because that's where I started with, but he does write amazing thrillers, and that is Stephen King. Like the Mr. Mercedes trilogy is outstanding. And then they wrote, after you've read the Mercedes trilogy, you need to read his new book, or his latest book that came out last year, which was Holly, which is about one of the main characters in the Mercedes trilogy. That's not a spoiler. 11/22/63 is a phenomenal thriller. It has a little bit of, well, I say supernatural when there's a wee bit of time travel, but that's as out there as it gets. The rest of it is just like a page-turning thriller. I've still to read Billy Summers. I've not read that one yet, I've got it on my shelf. And I would say Misery is more of a dark thriller than horror, for sure, in my opinion. You can call me out on that, but it does feel, and it reads more like a thriller, and I adore it. The Institute, I think, is another one which I really like. I would deem maybe is a bit more thriller. So those are pretty much all the most likely to have missed one. So if I have, let me know in the comments, because there might be ones that either I've missed or I've not read yet and I definitely should read. So if you too love thrillers, who are your AutoBuy thriller authors? When I say AutoBuy, for me it's like I hear they've got a new book out and I'm either pre-ordering it or I'm getting the requests in early at the library because I need to read it. Those are the ones that I get excited about. Oh, well, that would lead me to TM Logan, yep, but I don't rush to. They're a good read, but they're not ones that I would buy to keep on my bookshelves. Claire Douglas, however, I think I've maybe only read 2 of her books. The Girls Who Disappear was the last one, and that was amazing. I really enjoyed that. And she's got The Wrong Sister is the one that she's got out just now, and I've just requested it in my library, so I'm hoping I can get that in the next couple of months because I think there's quite a waiting list. So sorry, those are 2 that have just sneaked in that I normally would pick up. Nikki French is another one that I'm trying to explore more. They are a husband and wife duo who write thrillers, and one of my fave booktubers, Jen, I'll tag her below, absolutely adores Nikki French books. So I've got their new one, which is something Charlotte Slater put here. It's just out. Anyway, that's one that I definitely want to pick up and read. So I want to read more of their books because I've only read a couple, and I always hear good things about them. Anyway, I digress. What I was saying is, if you have any AutoBuy thriller authors that you love, please do share them in the comments below, just for both myself and fellow commenters to see. Any that you would recommend. And also, do we share any AutoBuy thriller authors? Do you love thrillers? Have you ever read a are you totally new to thrillers? If so, pick one of these. Go to the dark side if you think you can handle it, and if not, there's some lighter ones you can read there too. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed watching. Did you notice my new t-shirt? Got it from ASOS. It's my treat. I spotted it on Instagram and I was like, must buy. So I plan on wearing it to the office at some point this week, hopefully. And then I'll see if anyone does actually ask me what book I'm reading. I always encourage that question. The only question I encourage people to ask me. I joke. Anyway, as always, thanks again for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing and any of the comments. I know I'm not the fastest at getting back to comments, but I do always come back to your comments. So please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and let me know if there's any other AutoBuy authors of another genre that you would like me to talk about. If so, let me know. Until next time, bye!